So when you came to me and wanted to tell my testimony about a time in my life where Jesus literally changed everything for me, the first thing that came to my mind was about 6 years ago when my husband and I started our journey with infertility. And we were just 3 months married when this happened. And you're supposed to be living in like this, you know, newlywed bliss, and you kind of get slapped in the face and you get told, you know, medically speaking, we had a medical diagnosis of a less than 2% chance of ever having children together. And it just knocks the wind out of you. It's something that you don't really expect to ever hear, especially whenever, you know, you're growing up and people ask you what you want to be when you grow up, and everyone's like, I want to be an astronaut or a doctor or a veterinarian. My answer is always a mom. That's just what I always wanted to be. And so you never really expect it to happen to you. So the less than 2% chance was with like fertility treatments. Having a child naturally wasn't even like an option, wasn't even talked about. So we started our journey. And again, 3 months after we got married, and we saw tons of specialists, did all these appointments, and there were so many times in our story, like looking back, where the door was supposed to be closed on us so many times. And again, Jesus literally changed everything. Like a door was supposed to be medically shut and something would happen and it would be medically opened. And like after, you know, going through that so many times, you're like, this is not a coincidence. Like, you know, these doors are continuing to be opening for a reason. And we ended up being able to do IVF, which wasn't even really supposed to be an option, but it ended up being an option for us. And so we started IVF. And if you're familiar with the process, there's basically two different stages. The first stage is your egg retrieval, and basically they make these little babies in a petri dish, and there's really no other way to say that, but they make little babies in petri dishes, and they're first called blastocysts, and it takes 5 days essentially for a blastocyst to become an embryo. And they go ahead and tell us, like, biologically speaking, and just the cycle of, you know, just nature, not all your blastocysts are going to make into embryos, and to be expecting your number to kind of dwindle down each day. Not to be discouraged by it, but just kind of what happens. And so they call you on day, after your egg retrieval, they call you on day 1, 2, and 3. They skip day 4. And on day 5, they call you, and that's like your number of chances to have a baby. So they call us on day 1, and they tell us that we have 10, which is like a really good number. Our doctor's office was really encouraged, and like for the first time in our journey, like we're like, okay, like we're good. Like we were very encouraged, probably at very high of our journey. And they call us on day 2, and they were like, you still have 10. And I'm like, oh, okay, like this is really good. Day 3, they call us, and we have 10. Like it didn't go down. I'm like kind of freaking out for a different reason at this point. I call Randy and I'm like, we're gonna have to go buy a church bus to haul these children around. Like we have 10, like this is so good. Well, then day 4, they called us, or they didn't call us. And then day 5, they call us, and I'll never forget, it was just so matter of fact. Like it was just like no emotion, and they just call us and they're like, we're so sorry, none of them made it. I'm sorry, what? Like, what do you mean none of them? Like, we had 10, and they're like, none of them progressed to day 5. We're so sorry. Just like cut and dry.
And at the end of the conversation, they did say, we'll give them to day 6. It's unlikely a day 6 embryo is not very common, but we'll just give them to day 6. And throughout the whole journey, that night was by far the worst of it. You question a lot, you cry, it was just really hard. But then day 6 rolled around and they called, and again, very cut and dry. They're like, oh, by the way, 3 decided they wanted to grow overnight. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I have such emotional whiplash at this point. Like, I just went through 24 hours of just like this grueling, like, my life is over. I'm never gonna be a mom. Like, we're gonna have to start all the way over. And oh, you have 3 embryos. And we were like, it was just so crazy. Again, like, medically speaking, like, probably shouldn't have happened. And so, in March of 2019, the second half of IVF is your embryo transfer. And still, once you get to that point, like, if you ever get to that point, it's still just a 50-50 chance when that embryo goes into your body, whether it takes or not. And so in March of 2019, we transferred our first embryo, which did ultimately fail. It just didn't take to a pregnancy. So as soon as my body could do it again, because like you're taking injection after injection, hormone pills, all the things. So as soon as I was healthy enough to do it again, we transferred again in May of 2019. And we have a little boy. His name is Knox. He is 4 years old. Shouldn't be here, medically speaking. And just so blessed. So whenever he was 2, we decided we wanted to try to grow our family once more. And so we have one more embryo at this point. And so in March of 2021, we tell our clinic, because it's a whole process, we tell our clinic, like, we want to start our process. We want to hopefully transfer in May. And so they get our paperwork started. We start ordering all the medications and everything. But ultimately, we did not go through with that transfer because in April of 2021, I found that I was pregnant, naturally. Like, it's still, this is my favorite story to tell because it's like, she's 2, so for 2.5 years, like, it still just blows my mind that she, like, for Knox to be here through IVF is just a miracle. And then, but for her to be here with no fertility, it's just absolutely mind-blowing, especially when doctor after doctor after doctor sit down and tell you, like, this is not going to happen. Like, it cannot happen. Never seen it happen. We have a very unique infertility reason, medically speaking, as to why we are not fertile, I guess. And it literally should not have happened. But both of them, she's 2, and both of them are here, and both of them are living, breathing, walking testimonies as to why Jesus changes everything, even science.